Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we record this podcast, the Wurundjeri People of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respect to elders past and present. Hi, I'm Chloé Hayden. Welcome back to Boldly Me. I'm so excited to have you guys with me for this episode. Today is going to be very good. In Boldly Me, if you are new to the show, I speak to people who are living boldly and authentically and truly themselves. And I think today's guest is a very, very beautiful example of exactly that. I am so excited to be speaking to Mitte. RJ is an actor, model, producer, and disability advocate. RJ shot to international fame at just 14 years old as Walter White Jr. in the hit show Breaking Bad. RJ, like the character of Walter Jr., has cerebral palsy. He has used his platform to advocate for greater representation of disabled people in media, and I'm so excited to talk to him today. RJ joins me now. RJ, hello.
Well, hey, it's such a pleasure to be able to be a part of this. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. So, before we get properly started into it, one of the questions that I love to ask my guests is, what are you currently hyperfixating on at the moment? It could be a topic, a hobby, a movie, a song. Spill.
I have a couple of things I'm hyper fixated on. I think it changes kind of day by day. Right
Love.
now it's been work. I've been traveling a lot and doing a lot of different meetings, and so I recently went from Texas to Orlando for a fundraiser, and then from there I went to Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and now I'm in Los Angeles at the moment. And then just meeting after meeting after meeting. So I think right now I've been really hyper focused on just getting my meetings done and trying to get past this last 2 weeks of travel. But the
Yeah,
one
right.
but the one fun thing though that I recently was hyper fixating, I went fly fishing.
Oh my God, that's such a niche hobby. I love that. That's so sick.
It was pretty wild. It took me a minute, but I'm working on it.
Amazing. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your life. Let's talk about your career. You were only 14 years old, still a child, when you were on a little show called Breaking Bad, and you catapulted into international stardom. But can you take us back to before that moment? Take us back to the beginning.
So I was living in Houston at the time with my mom and my sister. My sister was one, and we were at a water park, and an agent saw her, and this agent was like, "Oh, she has beautiful red hair. We would love to use her for a Lucille Ball campaign." And we're like, "Yeah, why not go to LA for a few months and do this thing?" And if you move to Los Angeles and you don't go to school, you don't join a gang, and you don't act, you're not really going to make any friends. I just was like, well, while we're doing this, I might as well try it. And I started auditioning and doing extra work. I was on Hannah Montana, Everybody Hates Chris, Weed, Seventh Heaven, a bunch of shows and movies as an extra. And,
Honestly, Hannah Montana, chef's kiss, iconic.
oh my God. Here, you want to hear something funny though? One of my very first auditions that I ever did was for a governmental PSA for an anti-meth commercial.
Oh my God.
I didn't get the role because
I feel like that's probably a positive.
I think so too. But I was just auditioning and working and just trying to make a living as a 12-year-old kid, and I got this little audition call one day, and it was for this show called Breaking Bad, and I auditioned 5 times over the course of 6 months for the show. 4 in Los Angeles and once in New Mexico.
Wow.
And it was wild because I went in on one day. I auditioned for them. They said, "Okay, well, we would love to send you to New Mexico to get for another audition." And they got me on a flight the next day. I went in at like 7 a.m. I met Vince, the writer creator of the show, and I auditioned for him and a few other people. And they said, "Okay, go wait outside for a little bit." And I they called me back in, and then Brian were in there, and I did a test screening, and for if you don't know what a test screening is, that's kind of where they check to see if y'all get along, if you look
Mm-hmm.
alike, and apparently they liked me. Because about an hour later, they called me in my room and saying that I have the job, and to fly back to LA, pack your bags because they've already started filming.
Wow. Walk me through your head of how that felt when you got the call, going like, "Hey, you've got the job."
So it's kind of anticlimactic. I was asleep, and I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, and so I flew in that morning at like I started flying at 4 a.m. And I get the call and it's Vince and he's like, "Hey, RJ, congratulations, you got the role." And I'm like, "Oh, amazing, thank you so much." And and he was like, "Yeah, well, y'all head back to California and come straight back. We're ready to film." And I was like, "Great." And I went back to sleep.
Oh, you went back to sleep after finding out you got a role in Breaking Bad? What are
Yeah,
you doing?
I went back to sleep and then I woke up and went to my flight. I flew back to LA. I packed my bags
Oh
and
my God.
came straight back to New Mexico.
I got started. That is so cool. When I got the role of Quinny, it was like 9 o'clock at night and I had like 30 missed calls from my agent. And I was like, what is going on? And then all he had to say to me is, are you sitting down? Ugly sobs immediately. I
Oh,
didn't sleep for like a week after that.
I slept like a baby.
You're like, I've made it now. I've got the job. Auditions, chemistry reads, no more.
Nope, nope. I'm in it to win it.
When you were growing up, did you see yourself represented on screen?
I grew up in a weird environment that I didn't know I needed to be represented.
Yeah, right.
I didn't really think of myself as disabled. That wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really a thought. That word really wasn't like used in my family.
Yep.
Really because my aunt had polio and and family my whole family had different medical stuff and backgrounds, and so like having something was very normal, and I grew up with it being normal,
Right.
and I
Mm-hmm.
really I didn't realize that I had a disability until like I went to like a school and like people were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm fine." They're like, "No, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
you got that weird stuff on your legs and you talk a little funny." I'm like, "Yeah, so that's just how it is." I never
Yeah,
viewed
wow.
my disability as abnormal. I just thought this was something, we all have something in life, and this is what my life dealt me.
When you went to school, I know that you experienced quite a lot of bullying in the school system and by other kids. How did you overcome that?
I didn't back down. Um, I moved schools a lot as a kid, so I was always a new kid
Mm-hmm.
coming in. So it's kind of like being a new kid in school, never goes well, let alone having braces on your legs. And really, I think when it came to facing bullies, and I still deal with bullies today. We still have bullies, but we just don't call them bullies anymore because they're adults now. Um, but I think my thing is it's what do you want from me?
Mm-hmm.
Why what like almost try to diffuse it in a sense with, can I help you with something? Like, would you like information? Like, are you like, it's one of those things that usually um being a bully is a lot of times a cry for help.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that's kind of how they express their emotions through that type of behavior. And so I find, not everyone, not it doesn't work all the time. And if it doesn't work, it probably ends pretty badly. But like just being able to try to talk and diffuse the situation.
Yes. Going back to Breaking Bad, you finished filming it. You, what was it like seeing your face? You've done extra work, you've done all that sort of jazz, but seeing yourself as a lead character in a hit show, What was that like, seeing your face on screen for the first time?
I hate it. I can't stand
You
it.
hated it?
I can't stand it. I don't watch anything that I do. So
Have you watched Breaking Bad, or
no.
have you just like seen
No.
Really? Wow.
I've been forced to watch the first episode of every season and the last episode of the last season, and that's because I had to go to the premiere. and
Whoa, that is shocking.
and they learned about that little thing that I'm like, I don't like hearing myself. I don't like seeing myself. I really when it comes to like people are like, oh, is that you? I really kind of dissociate from who RJ Mitty is on
Mm-hmm.
screen to who I am as a person. It's I look at it like two vastly different people. Um, but I do remember like just having those moments on set, going like, this is really happening. This is going to be like amazing, and reading the scripts. Um, I'm a pretty big reader, and when I read those scripts, they were perfect. Every phrase, every action, just how the story unfolded, you could see it. When you read a good book, you can see the characters and you can see the environment, and that was kind of that was Breaking Bad. I could see it.
So you knew from the second you read the script that you had something special here.
We all did. We all knew we had something special. We just didn't know what.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was going to become. What was the response like? I know you haven't necessarily seen all the episodes yourself, but for people that have, both non-disabled and particularly disabled, I'm interested to hear, what has the response been like from the community?
Positive, very positive.
Mm.
I'm very lucky that I've been an advocate for many years now, working
Hmm.
and trying to create more opportunities for everyone to get their chance and to get that opportunity to be themselves. And um, it's been amazing. Breaking Bad at the beginning really didn't have a positive fan base because of the content of
Hmm.
the show. There was a lot
Yeah,
of
right.
negativity around it. 2008, the housing crisis. There was a lot of realism in the show where people were facing these hard life decisions, just like Heisenberg on like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay my bills? These are real things that were happening in our society, and so uh, in the beginning, people had a hard time because it was too real, too much like home. And so I think
Right.
as time went on, people understood that this wasn't a show about glorifying meth. This wasn't like about these types of contents. This is a family man trying to provide and just making wrong decision after wrong decision. And it's been very positive. Walt Jr. I think is probably one of the best characters out there when it comes to accurate representation. There's a few that are good, but I think what Vince did with Walt Jr. was amazing because it wasn't about a character with a disability. It was just Walt Jr. and that we rarely see.
Yes. Which is true representation, and that's the most important thing, and this is like one of my biggest things when it comes to positive, accurate disability representation: characters that are whole human beings that just so happen to also be disabled.
Which is very rare.
It's so rare, 100%.
And I think people miss the mark when it comes to representation when they're like, oh, we need representation. Well,
Hmm.
yes, we do need representation, but your story shouldn't be about representation.
Yes, yes. Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly it. Like, I think that the world is definitely a much better place than it was, 15, 20 years ago when it comes to representation. But representation is never going to be genuinely accurate and honest and
Yeah.
real and hold value until we see disabled people within all aspects of the media, and
Yeah.
not just as a lead character who happens to be like who is disabled, and a part of their plot line is being disabled, but it's having disabled villains and disabled shopkeepers and disabled waiters and disabled people, disabled extras, disabled people
Yeah.
walking down the street, and you just so happen to see them and they just so happen to be disabled. Until we have that, it's never going to be positive, accurate, real representation.
I've seen a big growth though towards that.
Hmm.
Mainstream media, not so much. It definitely feels sometimes very forced, targeted diversity. But I have over the last 10 years seen a massive growth in extras with disabilities just being
Yes.
in the environment. And people are like, well, that's not a speaking role, blah blah blah. That makes a huge difference. Just
Yep.
seeing someone going through going through in a chair or on some crutches or whatever it may be,
Yep.
like you see that means you're seeing people with disabilities out in public, which is
Yes.
something that I'm a big supporter of, and I think we need more people. Um, Society has created this wall, this box for people with disabilities that this is the best you're going to be. This is all you can do, and we're going to put you in a little box. You're going to stay in your room, and we're going to give you a phone. You're going to work from there, and you're never going to go outside. And that's just
Hmm.
so, to me, wrong when what we're trying to achieve is full inclusivity, where you can go out, you can do these things. It's not just diversification on television, but in our everyday society, which is very diverse. But we need people more willing to be out and actually, but not advocating, but just living a life.
RJ, you are such a bold, incredible person, both as an advocate, as an actor, and simply just as a human being. How do you find and keep that boldness?
Growing up, I was instilled many things, but one very important lesson that can't was a decision. That when you say you can't do something, um, or you're told you can't do something, that's a decision. That's not necessarily a fact. And a lot of times we take that as fact. That, oh, the doctor told me I can't walk. I'll never walk properly again. I'll never talk properly again. I'll never
Hmm.
be able to play sports. Well, that's to me quite the assumption, because if you never tried, how do you know? And so I find we hear a lot in this world, can't this, can't that. But it's up to you to make that decision, that what you're going to do. Are you going to go out and try to play sports? Are you going to get stronger? Are you going to get faster? Are you going to take control over your body and and put yourself out there? And I think for me, as you mentioned, boldness. I think that comes from that mindset of when I hear can't, I do the opposite.
I guess, kind of in the same vein of that, your Instagram bio is a quote, and the quote is, "It's better to light a candle than curse the darkness," which I think is absolutely beautiful and very similar to, I guess, what you were just saying. But what does that mean for you?
Um, uh, it means a lot of things actually, and that's one of my grandfather's quotes. That's our saying for my family foundation.
Hmm.
And so I think when a lot of times, we can all take something away from that quote, but to me, I think a lot of times we live in darkness. We
Hmm.
don't realize that it's very simple to get out of that darkness. But when you're in it, you can't see past that. And so finding that candle, finding that beam of hope, um, can help you understand what the darkness is. And so, um, that also being said, sometimes you have to be that person to light that candle for others.
Hmm.
And not everyone can light their own candle in the dark. But I'm very lucky through my works as an actor, through my activism, and my family's charitable organization. I'm able to make an impact, and I really believe um, we have to help light each other's candles.
That's really cool. What do you do when you're struggling to light your own candle?
Um, I try to start my day over. Um, you know, I find when I have a hard time um, persevering and just like wanting to give up, wanting to just be done. I think we all have moments where it's just like, okay, days ruined, days over, go back to bed, and tomorrow's a new day.
Hmm.
And I think for me, one of the things that I try to do when I do feel depressed or anxious or sad or lonely or whatever it is, I try to look for meaning on why I feel that way. Where is it? Why do I feel this? Because it's not me, right? It's not you're not like that. There's something there, right? That's making you feel that. And I find when I'm able to find that meaning, even if I can't change it, because a lot of times I can't. Um, it helps me understand why I'm feeling this way. So it I don't take it out on others. I don't take it out on myself because there's nothing I can do to change it. And recognizing that and understanding that is part of evolving with it.
Hmm.
But I mean, sometimes going back to bed is quite nice.
You know what? Sometimes it's all well and good to go, oh, get up and fight. But sometimes you just need to go back to bed. And you know what? That is so fine and so valid.
No, you can't fight every day. You can't win all
Yes.
your battles, and you're going to lose. I don't no one, even though they may appear that they win at everything. You're going to lose. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a perfect world, and so sometimes when there's nothing you can do, the best thing is to do nothing.
And also validating that it is okay to do nothing.
Yeah.
That life isn't an action movie and you can't save the day every day. And sometimes
No.
the way that you can save your day is by getting a hot cup of tea, a hot cup of chocolate, and going
Take
back to
time.
bed and going, take time out
Yeah.
for yourself. Because,
Yep.
like, the world is hectic and busy and crazy. And
Yeah.
I know as well as an advocate, like, we're both advocates, and advocating is such an important thing to do, but also so incredibly draining. So sometimes needing to take time out for yourself and going, look, it's well and good to go, yes, I'm going to fight. And yes, like, we're going to change things and stuff. But you know what? Sometimes you just need to go back to bed. That's
Yeah.
so valid.
No, 100, like because you do get burned out. Everyone gets
Yeah.
burned out, and
Mm-hmm.
like I'm on the teetering part of it right now. I've been working like the last 2 weeks straight, so like I'm
Mm-hmm.
right there on the edge where I'm like, okay, I'm just ready to go home. I don't want to
Yeah.
do I don't want to do any more meetings. I don't want to. I just want to be done. And then there's a little push. You gotta have that little push to be like, okay, I need to finish this, and then I get to rest,
And
and,
then I can stop.
and
Yeah.
then I can stop.
Yeah. Well, I hope you are looking after yourself. I hope you are having times where you can
I
sit
try.
down and relax and rest. Good. I'm glad. Learning how to do that is so something that I'm still learning to do myself, man, but it is something that is so vitally important to do. So good luck on your journey with learning how to cope with it.
Yeah, but some people never understand it though, and it's so important that to find that in yourself and to believe in yourself and knowing when you need to take that time for your mental health and physical health and your well-being.
Yes, sometimes, in fact, most of the time, it is incredibly important to put yourself first.
I agree.
RJ, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute privilege having you. Before we finish up, I've got 3 questions that I would love to ask you, and these are called the Boldly Me 3.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, number 1 is, what is one song that never fails to make you feel happy?
See, I listen to a lot of depressing music, so
Depressing music can be upbeat, that's fine.
yeah. Pink Floyd. I listen
Oh,
Pink,
nice, nice,
for
nice.
some reason like a long drive home and putting that makes me happy. So any of them, any of the Pink Floyd music makes me happy.
Brilliant. Number 2 is, what is one piece of advice that you would give your 13-year-old self?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot of advice I would give to myself, but I think the biggest thing is don't let other people define you. and fall into the trend, or not a trend, but what others want of you. I find, and I do it. It's one of my things is that I try. I'm a people pleaser, and I try to make everyone happy all the time. And the thing is I've learned, which I wish I would have learned a long time ago, is you can't make everyone happy. It's just not possible. But what you can do is make yourself happy and do what's right for you. And that's something that I wish I would have learned a long time ago.
Put yourself first. Number 3, if you could be any Disney character, who would you be?
Ooh, any Disney character. Flynn Rider from Angle.
Perfect. Love it. I love it.
I think
we could turn Rapunzel into a live action movie.
Right?
I reckon you'd be a perfect Flynn Rider.
I think so too. No,
I reckon you've got the smolder.
Actually, this isn't a Disney movie, but it is one of my favorite characters. You ever watch Treasure Planet?
Oh, yes.
My favorite. It's my number 1.
Oh, brilliant. I love it. RJ, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute honor and privilege.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's great to meet you and be a part of the show, and have a good rest of your day.
RJ Mitte, everyone. What an incredible human being. I loved what he was saying about his mental health and about putting himself first and about how we should all be putting ourselves first. I think that is such an important thing to take away from this episode specifically. I'm so excited to see what he does next. I'm sure whatever it is going to be absolutely, completely, brilliantly phenomenal. That was Boldly Me. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Thank you so much for joining me. If you feel so inclined, rate the show, share the show with a friend. Most importantly, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, stay hydrated, and do whatever makes you feel happy. Goodbye.